Welcome to Intro to Coding in JavaScript. JavaScript is the world's most popular coding language and has been for the last 8 years. It's versatile, powers 94.5% of all web pages, and isn't going away anytime soon. JavaScript is used to build websites, desktop apps, mobile apps, games, and even for building back-end web servers. Back-end web server? I guess that should be plural, huh? I'll pass over that for now. Whatever your coding goals, JavaScript has you covered. The JavaScript course for absolute beginners. Congrats! You're starting your coding journey and developing the skills you need to land your dream job. It won't always be easy, and at times it may even be frustrating, but in time you'll look back on this period in your life beaming with pride and nostalgia as you recount your experience. At Boot.dev, you will write real code and get instant feedback, have access to well-written solutions when you get stuck, connect with a community of learners, mentors, and teachers, learn the comp sci fundamentals that employers say their candidates are lacking. Let's scroll down. Get started. When you're ready, click the right arrow up here at the top of this window to move to the next exercise. About the author, Lane. Hi, Lane. I just waved. You can't see it. I want to turn on my webcam. Hi, Lane. Lane is currently the head of engineering at a Bay Area startup with experience on a large engineering team writing JavaScript, Python, and Go. He has a passion for coding education and particularly enjoys helping new developers find jobs in tech. A note from Lane. I'm glad to have you with me in this entry-level JavaScript course. While I designed this course for beginners, you may still find it challenging at times. Programming is a challenging field, but I'm a firm believer that anyone that enjoys working with technology can become a successful developer, and you can too. If you get stuck or have questions, I hang out in Boot.dev's Discord server, and someone from the community or myself would love to answer your questions and get to know you better. Also, feel free to reach out directly on Twitter. Some interesting stats. JavaScript developers have an average salary of $112,000. JavaScript is the world's most popular programming language. JavaScript is in the top 10 most loved languages by coders, taken from Stack Overflow's survey. And insights. I'll talk about the insights feature later. For now, I don't have any insights to add, and I don't have any issues with the page. I guess I could report that bit about the plural, but I'm just going to move on. Boldly and bravely forward. Chapter 1, Intro, Exercise 2 of 11. JavaScript can be used for just about anything. Learning to code is an invaluable skill. When you're finished with this course, you'll have learned the fundamentals of a programming language used by millions of websites to do amazing things. Computer-generated art. I wrote some code on the right that will generate an image of a fractal. A fractal is a special geometric figure that can be easily drawn by a computer. Excuse me. That's what a fractal looks like. Assignment. The fractal doesn't have much detail right now because the amount of detail setting is set low at 32. Change the number from 1 to 30, Change the number on line 1 from 32 to 128 and click the Run triangle button. Well, I want to see it with less detail. And just because I'm playing around with this, let's try it with 64 detail. That's a little bit better. And let's let the amount of detail equal 128, like I was supposed to do the first time. Hey, correct. Great job. I like that the correct is blue now. I think it was a different color before. Don't worry about the rest. Don't worry about the rest of the code yet. You'll learn about all that when the time comes, one step at a time. I just can't help myself. I'm going to scroll down and peek at it. Don't touch this. Uh-oh, I touched it. What's going to happen to me? Okay, we're not going to go into that yet. It said don't worry about the rest of the code. Insights, report issue. Don't have any issues to submit. Let's move on. So how was that? I hope you're enjoying getting started with this. And I'm just going to move on into Chapter 1 Intro, Exercise 3. Congrats, you're programming. Now that you've seen some of the cool stuff we can do with code, let's start from the beginning. While the end goal of some programs is to create image, video, game, or websites, many programs just print text. After you run your code, its text output is printed in the darker gray box at the bottom of your screen. That output is compared against the answer key so you can know your code is correct. I think it might be nice if it says after you run your code on Boot.dev. But anyway. Console. The console is a panel that displays important messages like errors or results for developers. Most of the work our code does is invisible to us by default. If we want to see things on our screen, we can print or log to our console. Your console is the panel just below your code in the bottom right of your screen. In JavaScript, the console keyword refers to the console. Keywords are words that are built into JavaScript, so your computer will recognize them for what they are. In order to log text to your console panel, you use the console.log function. We'll learn more about functions later, but for now, just know that the console.log function will print anything you put inside its parenthesis. For example, console.log, this is some text I want to print. Let's build a text-based fantasy game, Fantasy Quest. For the next few exercises, we'll be creating the building blocks of a text-based video game. Have to say it like that because it's in italics and exclamation point. We'll call it Fantasy Quest. Assignment. We need to prompt our player to tell us their name. Edit the code so that it logs "Welcome to Fantasy Quest. Please enter a username" in the console. So we see here that the pattern is console.log, left parenthesis, then a single quote, followed by some text, another single quote, and the right parenthesis. So I can go over here to I guess this is like the coding area, or the text editor, console.log testing, which is kind of a boring thing to put in there. We could be a little more fun and say hello Boot.dev. Or we could do what they told us to do, which is, hopefully I can copy and paste this. Neat. Okay. So to review, to print something to the console, we write console.log with a parenthesis, a quote, then the text, another quote, and the right parenthesis. Don't have any insights for this one. Let's move on to the next. Okay. Chapter 1 Intro, Exercise 4. What is JavaScript? Thousands of our students start their coding journey right here with JavaScript. It's a fantastic place to start. JavaScript is famously known as the language of web browsers. While it originally was only used for website development, the language has continued to evolve and grow over time. Today, JavaScript is a powerful and fast programming language used by professionals for almost any kind of programming you can imagine. That's exactly why we start our students off on the right foot with JavaScript. JavaScript powers the dynamic behavior on most websites, including this one. If you're interested in a language that can get you into the programming industry quickly, JavaScript is probably the best choice. Now we have another feature of Boot.dev, and that is these little quizzes. So it says JavaScript was originally only used in, choices are Bitcoin, mathematics, school, and websites. I kind of like the Bitcoin fake answer, but let's go with the real one of websites. Thanks, I said QVault because I'm used to thinking QVault, but they are now Boot.dev. I don't want to act like I'm part of something that I'm not necessarily part of. Okay, what is JavaScript? Thousands of our students, I already read that. Today, JavaScript is used for almost any kind of programming. Nice. Okay. Chapter 1, Intro, Exercise 6 of 11. Console. Like we mentioned before, console.log lets us visualize data in our code. In our case, the console is the little box at the bottom of the coding window on the right. Assignment. Now we need to give our player some additional instructions. Print, press the spacebar to jump, and use the arrow keys to move. So if we remember from our recent lesson, console.log starts with a left parenthesis, then a single quote, and this time I'm going to hopefully be able to type reasonably well. Press the space bar to jump and use the arrow keys to move, period, single quote, right paren. And let's do this. Okay, that works. What is code? Chapter 1, Intro, Exercise 7. Code is just a series of instructions that computers can follow. Computers obey each instruction, one after another. Programs can be composed of many instructions, like many, like millions. One of the common instructions in coding is the addition instruction. Assignment. It's common in video games to do basic addition. For example, we may need to calculate the additional damage our player's sword does when it's enchanted with extra strength. Let's pretend our hero's sword does 250 normally, but does an additional 75 damage when it's enchanted. Print the result of 250 plus 75. Well, let's just type in 250 plus 75 inside of this console.log function and see what we get. 325. Okay. So we gave some instructions. It ended up with a result, and console.log took that result and showed it to us. That's the 325. Multiple instructions. Code runs in order, starting at the top of the program. For example, console.log, this prints first, console.log, this prints second, console.log, this prints last. Each console.log instruction prints on a new line. Assignment. Dialogue in our game needs to be printed in the correct order. In the first level, our hero encounters a talking owl named Jax. Let's display the following conversation through text. The text provided on the right is out of order. Rearrange it so that it prints in the following manner. Jax. Paka! Hero. Jax. Where are you off to this morning? Paka! Hero. Where did an owl learn to speak? Ooh, I like the double question mark there. Okay, this is all mixed up. So I'm going to Command X, cut that, move it up here, Command V, paste it there. And now I think we're all set. We're going to run this. Correct, great job. And now for the first time I notice we have an insight here. Alan Lyers says, because code executes in order, logging code to the console can be a powerful tool to determine where bugs or issues are within your code. For example, if specific code isn't doing what you think it should, you can add a console log near to the code in question to visualize what it is actually doing. Thanks, Alan. Okay, let's move forward. Syntax errors. Syntax is jargon for valid code that the computer can understand. For example, console.log hello world. Notice how it's CONSLE is invalid syntax because console.log is not a valid function. Console is spelled incorrectly. As a result, an error will be thrown and the code won't execute. Assignment. There's a bug in our game. Our players are getting mad because they pay us $20 a month to have access to Fantasy Quest. Find the syntax error in the code and correct it. We have console.logger. That looks a little funny. But rather than fix it, I'm going to poke at it and see what happens if I run it even though I know it's broken. So run. Type error. Console.logger is not a function. Okay, let's go ahead and fix that. Console.log. Welcome to Fantasy Quest. Run. What is this? Losing your motivation is the worst thing that happened. Is the worst thing that can happen. Invite a friend to do your course with you. If you're enjoying the course so far, invite a friend to work on it with you. The number one problem you'll have as an online learner is a lack of accountability. We don't have exams, deadlines, or even huge tuitions that would serve as external motivators at a traditional school. The best thing you can do is find a group of friends to work with. You can hold each other accountable and give each other help if you get stuck. If you don't know anyone personally, drop a message in our Discord server and find someone there. I just might do that, but for now I'm going to say got it and move forward. Okay. Syntax errors quiz. A coding language's syntax makes up the rules that define what properly structured expressions and statements look like in that language. For example, in JavaScript, the following would be considered correct syntax. Console.log hello world. While in a different programming language like Go, the correct syntax would be fmt.println hello world. Notice that in JavaScript we can use single quotes, single quote like that, while in Go we need to use double quotes to enclose a string of text. Double quote. Code can have many different problems that prevent it from working as intended. Some examples include a bug in the logic. For example, a program that should add numbers multiplies them instead. A problem with speed. A program that calculates how to play the perfect game of chess might never be able to finish because it requires too many calculations. A problem with syntax. This is the most common problem for new developers. Luckily, the JavaScript interpreter will try to give you a descriptive error in the output window to help you find the problem. Sixth syntax definition. Looks like if I did click on this, it would go to en.wikipedia.org, but I'm going to stay on the Boot.dev site for now. What does syntax mean? I'm going to say valid. I'm not going to say fast code, but that's a fun answer. Code in the browser, no. This is interesting. Valid code in a programming language versus code that produces the correct output. It turns out that code can be valid to run and yet not produce the correct answer, like a bug in the logic. You know, we mentioned it over here. It says there can be a bug in the logic without there. This implies that there can be a bug in the logic without there being a problem in the syntax. So anyway, I'm going to say valid code in a programming language. Correct. Neat. Going on. What happens if you try to run code with invalid syntax? The network will disconnect. You'll be provided a syntax error message and the code won't execute. The computer will freeze. That would suck if the computer would freeze every time you made a syntax error. That would slow things down a lot. Fortunately, it's this one. Yeah, correct.